Hi, I'm Jase, and this is Wine Chat, and we're here with winemaker for Domaine Chandon in Napa Valley, Tom Tiburzi. Tom, welcome to Wine Chat.
Thank you.
And Tom is going to tell us a little bit later on some of the basics about Chandon and sparkling wine in general. He's going to show us how to open a bottle of sparkling wine the right way.
Absolutely.
And there is a right way, and most people do it the wrong way. So stay tuned for that. But first, I think we're going to cover some basic questions about you and what you do. First question, how long have you been working for Chandon?
I've been at Chandon now for 20 years. This harvest will be my 20th harvest. 1989, I was hired on as part of the research program there.
Okay. Now, research program, you had a background in science. You started with a degree in biology from Berkeley. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. Environmental biology, and took a lot of microbiology classes.
So to answer the question that I think a couple people have asked, winemaking, art or science?
Well, it's really a good marriage of both.
Okay.
If you had to have one or the other, the art part, like I could do without the science and work with my palate. You have to have the palate first.
Okay.
But the science is a good supporting member and helps with consistency and reproducibility and really quality control to make sure the consumer gets really good, consistent product. So you really need the science for that.
Okay, so you're saying so the art is kind of the core, but to really reach that next level, you're going to need the science.
Absolutely.
Okay, so stay in school, kids. So how did you get from a degree in biology to winemaking? How does that happen?
Well, I actually started out as a winemaker in some sense in old world Italian family I grew up in.
Okay.
We made wine at home, so I was making wine when I was 7 years old. My father was in the liquor business. I would come home from school and work in his store, so I knew about spirits, I knew about wine, and my wife is a trained chef, so I know about the food part of the business. And I did allergy and bacteria research for quite a few years. When the biotech company I was working for moved to Florida, my wife was the pastry chef already at Domaine Chandon and working in the restaurant there. I didn't want to move to Florida. She didn't want to move. And so they had a research position opened up at Chandon, and I stepped right in.
And it's been magic ever since,
Absolutely.
right? So now you were promoted to head winemaker, 2005, is that correct?
2005, that's right.
Now, you'd worked there for a while, but when you take over that role as head winemaker, do you get in there and make a bunch of changes, or is there an established, basically, do you bring your own taste to the wine, or is it an established taste profile you're trying to hit day in and day out?
There's definitely the established taste profile. Each product has its defined style, and really the skill of the sparkling winemaker is to take like the 200 individual lots of what we call base wines at the end of harvest and craft those wines into each product. It's with winemaking and going from year to year and transitions from winemaker to winemaker. It's like a relay race. The one winemaker's got the baton, he's head of the program, he's running full speed, and he passes that baton to the next winemaker, and there's a certain point where they're both step in stride, and they pass it on. In the meantime, the next winemaker is already on deck, and he's already started getting ready to run, and it's like a transition. So you take what's happened before you. I have like the history of Moet and Chandon from like the 1740s, passed on from winemaker to winemaker, brought down to me, and I take that now and pass it down. And times change, tastes change, markets evolve, and you have to stay modernized and move with the markets. And so your taste buds and your influence keeps the brand modernized, basically.
So would we recognize if we tasted, if we could go back and taste an example, a fresh example of Chandon from 40 years ago, is there some similarity still?
You'll see a lot of continuity from year to year, absolutely.
Okay. So what is an average day for you as a winemaker?
Boy, it's an agricultural business, so depending on the season, my average day will vary. Like during harvest, it's totally different than it is like during what we call like the blending season or the season when we actually do the secondary fermentation in the bottles. But typically, I'll come into work. We'll start off with tastings, doing blending, or maybe like what we call dosage trials. Dosage is that part of the of winemaking where we finish the wine with a liqueur. So we have to do lots of trials on developing the finish for the wines. So usually we try to do the tastings in the morning. If it's on Friday, I usually start off my morning with the chef. we'll work on food and wine pairings every Friday morning.
That sounds like Friday's a fun day.
Yeah, it's a good way to start the day. But I'll work on budgets. I'll work on all the administrative parts of the job. Basically, lots of tasting, lots of blending. I work with an assistant winemaker that is absolutely, she's a wonderful person to have on board. Sort of my right hand gal, and so we spend a lot of time working on the projects together.
Okay, now you mentioned food and wine pairing, and I understand you're kind of a food buff as well.
Yes.
What is a meal that you feel isn't complete without a glass of sparkling wine there?
Well, I think every meal really should have some sparkling wine.
Of course.
But the sparkling wine has a lot of acidity, which really lends itself well to food and wine pairing. But if there's one thing in particular I really like when you have light red meats, for instance, like duck or even veal, like a sparkling rosé with that pairing is to me is really a great match.